Guys, thanks for coming on today. Let me just share my screen. Can you guys all see this?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, guys, like I said, thanks for coming on today. Gonna hopefully not take up too much time. Again, for those of you who just joined, if you have questions, please feel free to ask. This is a smaller group, so we'll be able to answer those pretty quickly. Our company, Equitable, our parent company is AXA, AXA. If you guys know insurance very well, maybe you don't, maybe you do. AXA is a massive French insurance company, and they preside over a lot of Europe. They're kind of like the State Farm of Europe, only about 5 times as big. Now, Equitable is our North American financial planning subsidiary of AXA, and we pretty much focus on financial planning for North American people, as you might expect, and that comes in a lot of different forms. So right here we have the Liverpool team. AXA is actually a sponsor of Liverpool. We don't do as much advertising here in North America. I think we probably will pretty soon. But a little bit about myself. I graduated from Florida State. I'm from South Florida, from Boca Raton originally. I got into the business because my mother's a teacher in Broward County, and her advisor, Lenny, was kind of like a mentor to me throughout college. I actually went and did some work with him and interned him when I was in my sophomore year. And I decided that, I was going to go ahead with him because I trusted the company and I trusted him and his team, and really gave me a great platform to grow. Right now in the few years I've been here, I've gotten over $10 million in assets under management, which is a pretty big thing when you're looking at the kind of production you want to put up as an advisor. And I think that it speaks to, for you guys especially, is as a young person graduating college, I know myself when I was in your shoes, my concern was, I'm young, who's going to give me their money, right? Who's going to trust me with my advice? What do I know? I just got my licenses. And I think you find over time that being a young person in an industry that people think this is for 40s, 50s, 60-year-olds. But if you're able to do it at a young age, it's a phenomenal way to grow your career. And, this is an exponential career in which that you're going to grow your client base and the assets that you manage by a multiple every single year. My managing partner, Tyler Governman, he was from FAU. We both started off in Boca as just advisors, and more recently in January, actually, we had the opportunity to move over here and start presiding over this branch. And our main job right now is to figure out who we want to bring on board and who's going to be beneficial for our current clients and prospective clients. And I'll get a little bit more into detail on that as well. Our company has a very strong balance sheet. We've actually been in business since about 1860. Like I said, you may or may not have heard of us, but when it says we have a strong balance sheet, what that means is we have certain liabilities, as every financial firm does. We actually have the assets to cover all those liabilities in one fell swoop, which a lot of firms don't have that kind of balance sheet, which is good because it means that we have stability and we have flexibility and strength, especially in times like right now where there's a lot of moving parts in the market and people are concerned. We have over 6,000 financial consultants across the country. We're in all 50 states. And our goal is to provide the most holistic financial planning practice that we can for our clients. And that doesn't mean we sell a certain product or a certain type of insurance policy or investment. That means that we have access to pretty much every kind of those products, and we're able to kind of mix and match and figure out what's going to work best for our clients. So although I work for Equitable, I'm an employee of Equitable, I like to see myself as building a practice within the shell of Equitable that allows me to use that corporation as my resources, training, product knowledge, all of that, and kind of, I work for my clients. So I feel like I work for my clients, not as much the company. And this is a much more entrepreneurial role in regards to the day-to-day. This is a job where you're going to create your own hours. You're going to work your own client book. Nobody's going to take your clients from you. And, we take a lot of pride in doing that. And as a young advisor, that's important because a lot of firms will bring you in, have you market yourself to everybody you know, and then the person that you're under will take half of the business or half of the clients. So we take a lot of pride in putting a lot of resources into our young advisors. This is just a little bit of our team. Some of these people are in South Florida, in the Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Boca Raton area. Some of them are over here. A big thing on this slide that I like to talk about, here's Tyler and myself, and Heather is our district assistant. She kind of runs the office. A lot of these people are really good at what they do, and what comes in this field is that you end up specializing. Financial planning and insurance business, investment business is very diverse, and there's a ton of material there. The goal for most advisors is to start off, build your client book, and then kind of figure out where you want to specialize, right? Maybe that's the AUM, assets under management side, where you're doing advisory business, charging a percentage fee on your assets every single year, and you work with those clients on a relationship basis. Other people might be really good at developing insurance strategies and long-term care planning and estate planning. So we have the access to do all of those things. It's kind of figuring out the first 2, 3, 4 years is figuring out which part of that industry am I going to be most successful in, and which part do I like the most. So for instance, Dominic right here, Dominic Mancini, he runs a lot of my managed money accounts. I'll be the face to my clients, but he'll be the ones in the background on the computer, looking at stocks, looking at PE ratios, because personally, I'm not interested in doing that on a daily basis. He is. So it's a great partnership there. And we have a lot of partners we work with to do different things. A lot of the things we talk about are the impact that we make, right? Every job has some kind of impact. The thing is, a lot of jobs that are tied to corporate entities, your bottom line goal is to increase the profit for that company, right? So for us, personally, I find it really rewarding that I can work with my clients and kind of throw myself a pass 3 years ago that I catch today. And they're saying, I'm so thankful you did this for me. This is what you did for my life and my family. And to me, there's a lot of power there. And it's very exciting to be able to do that for the people in our community, the people in our families, the people we know and love. And you'll find over time, as you build your client book, those people become like family to you. So you really do want to do what's best for them. And we have a ton of resources and other financial professionals that we can consult on each client. Our team in South Florida, we call ourselves a South Florida team. That basically means Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Boca Raton, and Fort Myers. We're one of the top 10 throughout the country. And, that's a really big district. Like I said, we're on all 50 states. And so we have a huge impact on the people we work with day to day in our office, the partners that we work with. The impact on ourselves, I think for me, that was one of the most important things coming out of school at FSU, kind of figuring out, do I want to go to that 9-to-5 life, or do I want to try to do this entrepreneurial route? I understand that I'm not experienced. I'm just got my licenses. I actually got my licenses when I was still in school, so right before I graduated. So I was able to transition into my practice with pretty little lag time. And, during those times, I was working at a restaurant, doing something to make some cash flow while studying. And like I said, I was able to just reach right out to people and start working from there. This job, like I said, nobody's going to expect you to clock in. It's not how it works. We expect you to make your own hours. If you're not capable of doing that, this is not the career for you. And we're upfront about that. There is no PTO, there's no lunch breaks. It works a little bit differently in that we expect you to be self-motivated and to use us as a resource, if that makes sense. The way we make income, okay, a PC, and I'll get a little bit into detail right now. If you have questions on this and you want to get into detail later on, please reach out to me. I'll have my contact info at the end of the session. We get paid based on what's called a PC, a production credit. One PC is $1 of commissionable revenue. So we're all going to learn a little bit about this super fun, exciting stuff in finance today on how we get paid. Payout options for our first year advisors, and these change over time as you go through different years and cycles. Your compensation structure typically actually gets better as you get more established in with the firm. We have two sides for a new advisor. The first side is a salary of $2,000 a month, which is $24,000 base, and there's an $8,000 bonus that most people will hit. So consider kind of your base as $32,000, and then you make half of your PCs in dollars. So like I said, this might be confusing. Typically is. If you have more questions on it later and you want to talk to me individually on different examples, we can definitely do that. I just want to put something in compensation in here so that you guys are aware. That salary side, like I said, consider it a $32,000 base. And for this example right here, with that, the bonus is not on here, by the way, so it might be a little confusing. But if you consider you make $40,000 of PCs, commissionable revenue in your first year, cut that in half because you're getting the salary. That's $20,000 in commission, $24,000 of your salary, plus the bonus, you're looking at about $52,000 first year if you're on the salary side. I would say our new advisors range from 45 to 80, 100,000 first year, just depending on the kind of business that you do, how quickly you pick up the business, and really how many hours you put into marketing yourself and marketing your practice. Because like I said, this is a practice. This is not a day job. This is something you're going to work with clients over a number of years and build really tight relationships with. The other side to our compensation program would be just the commission plus a bonus. This is going to look at your PCs. You're going to get 100% of the PCs that you produce, the production credits, and then you'll get a 30% or 40% bonus on top of that. So if somebody were to make $40,000 in PCs, they would get that paid out to them as a commission, and then they get a 30% bonus on top of that. Right here, you'd be at 52,000. So this is kind of the break even there. Once you hit over 65,000 PCs, if you're in your first year, you get actually a 10% increase on that bonus, which would be 40%. A lot of people ask us, so are you guys on the investment side or are you on the insurance side, right? Because this is a part that's confusing. It confused me when I was in school. What's the difference between all these financial advisors, right? Some of them work for Mass Mutual, Northwestern Mutual, New York Life, right? All big, great companies. Some of them work for JP Morgan Chase. They work for Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, right? What's the difference? They're all financial advisors, but are they the same? How does that work? You know, you have your insurance firms. Your insurance firms are going to be the Mass Mutual, Northwestern Mutual types. You have your JP Morgan. Those are going to be your more broker-dealer firms. For us, we're actually able to do both. So we're kind of a hybrid where we use a ton of insurance annuity platforms. And we also do the managed money brokerage business that the JP Morgans and Merrills are doing. For us, we don't have client minimums. For a lot of firms, they'll say, you know, bring over a client only if they have $250,000 more or more in investable assets. And, you know, as a young advisor, to me, that was a little bit harrowing to find those people because not a lot of them are out there. And like I said, nothing wrong with any of those companies. They're all great. For us, we try to be able to do both and be a one-stop shop for our clients where we can actually build a full financial plan. Because if you're just doing insurance, that's not a full financial plan. If you're just doing wealth management and managed money, that's not a full financial plan, right? They're both beneficial, but it's not integrated. So we take a lot of pride in doing both. Just compensation. This slide's maybe a little bit confusing. Again, we apologize. It's usually meant for a one-on-one interview, but we're going to use it today. Of all the different things we can do hundreds of different strategies for employees of companies, employee benefits, employers, so we can set up 401ks. And most of our work is with individuals and families. If we're doing risk management products, that's disability insurance, long-term care insurance, life insurance, health insurance, we're typically going to get between 50 to 65% of our first year premium. So I'll give you an example right here. If you place somebody in a life insurance policy paying $100 a month and it's $1,200 is the first year premium, you're going to get paid between 600, 800 PCs. Annuity products, they can be kind of confusing. There's a lot of different annuities and it can mean a lot of different things. For those different strategies, it's usually 2.5 to 3.5% of the initial investment. So $100,000 investment, this is kind of the range you're looking at. And brokerage product, we're going to get, these can be confusing because there's different ways we can do this, but you're typically going to get, if you're charging someone 1% on their money per year, you'll make about 40% of that 1% that you charge because we do have to clear through a broker dealer. So if you're managing $100,000 for a client, you'll basically get 400 PCs per year. Every year you have that money. And obviously as the market grows and your investments grow and they contribute to the account more, that'll increase. So a lot of people on the wealth management side, that's kind of their model, is charging that fee for their advice, and they're paid annually on that premise. For our firm, and this is another thing that I think is really important, it was really important for me coming out of school, we have two kind of routes for a first year advisor. The traditional advisor is kind of what you think of where you're going to be probably cold calling, you're going to be reaching out to a lot of different businesses, going to networking events like the Chamber of Commerce, things of that nature. Some of that stuff is pretty difficult, and if you're not tenured and you're a younger advisor, it might be hard to kind of get your feet wet and really cold call, which is a thing that they did a lot in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. That's an area that right now with the do not call list and things have changed, it's very challenging to do cold calls. and I'll kind of go over to the other side, the RBG side here. Like I said, we have this option. The traditional option is a really good one for people that are later in their careers, that are career changers, that maybe we have an individual who's in his upper 40s. He worked in an engineering firm for most of his life as an engineer, really smart guy. When he transitioned to this business, he already had a ton of engineers and high net worth individuals to reach out to, right? So giving it my perspective, when I was 21 in college, about to graduate 22, I didn't have 30 years of engineers with high net worth to reach out to do business with. So that gets me over to the RBG side. This is the retirement benefits group. And this is kind of the kicker for me when I was at your stage, which is we have contracts with Lee County School Board, Florida Gulf Coast University, a ton of different, the sheriff's office for Lee County. We have contracts. We're actually able to set up retirement plans for those employees. And the biggest one we have over here is the Lee County School District, where basically what happens is we're going to give you as a new advisor 10 to 12 schools that are kind of yours to work. And that's where you're going to go to build relationships. Oh, what did I just do? That's where you're going to go to build relationships and build your client book with people that you can readily do business with, and you have the credibility of our firm behind us. So for me, I'll keep referencing myself and my experience. For me, that was a great thing because none of my friends had any money when I left college, right? None of my friends, they just started working. I didn't have a vast network of people to reach out to that had money. So that the school system in Palm Beach County is where I went to go get my clients. And I got about 130 clients my first year. I don't think I'd be able to do that cold calling, right? So we're able to set up their 401k platform. It's called a 403b, but it's the investment platform that they use, which mimics the 401k for a corporate business. A 401k is for a for-profit employer. A 403b is for a nonprofit. So that's a huge foot in the door. And from there, hey, Mrs. Jones, XYZ client, I'm glad we could set this up for you today. Has anybody provided you with a written financial plan? And what you'll find is people in the school system, people in the sheriff system, great people in the community, a lot of them don't have any kind of financial plan or anybody to work with on a financial plan because a majority of the advisors they speak with have a minimum of $250,000 of investable assets, et cetera. So that's a great platform to build your planning, financial planning process and to gain a lot of clients in a quickly time, as well as get to know a lot of people in the community. And the goal for that is to get your foot in the door with the retirement plan and help them with that, and then be able to give them all the other services that we can provide and we're fully licensed to do. Everybody has a reason why or why not to work with a financial planner, but from our perspective, there's always a time to be consulted, right? We have all these stages here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there are so many different things that we can use our resources to help our clients with throughout life. And people's lives are constantly changing. People get married, divorced, they have kids, they lose loved ones, they buy new houses, they want to make investments. And these are things that happen over the years that we want to be there for and be that individual that the first one they call when they have a new situation pop up. So this is kind of just an example on some of the things we can do throughout different life stages. I know this is kind of not the prettiest slide, but this goes to show you, right? The nice thing about our firm as well is we don't have to sell one particular product, right? A lot of firms, they'll have quotas, or they'll only have one insurance vehicle that they sell, or one investment vehicle or family of mutual funds that they can place their clients in. For us, we have an open architecture platform where we're able to use pretty much all of these companies, and they're not even all on here, but we can pretty much place clients in products that have nothing to do with our company. So, I have clients that have insurance policies through Prudential. Why? Because the Prudential policy was better than the one that Equitable could do. So having the ability to look around and choose get the very best out there on the open market for our clients gives us tremendous credibility. And I've had clients say, wow, I thought you worked for Equitable, and it's a lot to say to them. I do, but we have this open network where I can put you in the best product for you, not necessarily the one that my company creates, but the best one that's going to work for you and your family. So we take a lot of pride in that as well. And it's very effective. In terms of our process with clients, it's typically 5-step, right? The first step is the discovery or fact finder meeting that we hold with the client. This is really, really crucial, and I try to get really detailed in this part because The more details you can build and the more you can put into your forecast for, how the retirement plan will look, or whatever you're going to look at, the better it will look and the more detail you can give to your client. So that would be step one, is the fact-finding process with the client. Step two is kind of creating that client profile and getting to know them personally. Like I said, I try to make my clients like family to me, because I don't want customers. I want clients that are going to be there for me. I'm going to be there for them, and it's a great relationship. I don't want somebody to just buy something and then I never talk to them again. That's not how I want to build my practice. Step three is we develop a strategy. When you're new, you're not going to know every strategy on the planet. People that have been around for 30 years are still learning every day. And that's one thing about this job, is it's always continuing education, because you can never know enough in our position. There's always going to be areas you can improve on. So if you don't, maybe off the bat, right, you're not going to know every strategy. We have consultants that have done it before, that are specialists in the area that you're concerned about, and you can consult them and get advice, and even bring them onto your cases to help you close the case and help the client, most importantly. Step four would be the action we take with the client. That's where we, present the plan, present the benefits, and whether it be the pros and cons, and kind of show them. I like to show different options for my clients. I don't come back with one option. I usually come back with a number of options and kind of discuss the pros and cons of each, just so they have a selection and they don't feel that they're being pressured into one idea. I think it's good to have a conversation with your clients and figure out where their heart is and where their mind is. And step five is, once you implement that process, is reviewing with your clients on an annual basis and checking up on how that strategy is working. Is it going through the way we expected it to, et cetera. This is an asset map. This is basically what we use as a fact finder. So a ton of times we'll deal with a client, and they'll come in, they'll give me a stack of papers like this and say, oh, these are all the statements and insurance policies I've ever gotten in the mail, figure it out. What this does is takes everything from their client profile and puts it onto one piece of paper. That makes it really easy for the client to work with and kind of see it. And it makes it really easy for us to see, hey, where are the gaps? Where are the issues that we're going to run into here? So, just for an example, if I sit down with a client and their spouse, we're going to talk about, what are your income sources? What are your expected pensions? What are your expected Social Security? Like I said, we get into detail. What are your retirement assets? What are your non-retirement assets? What are your liabilities look like? Do you have debt? Do you have student loans, right? We try to get as detailed as possible. What are your insurance plans look like? Are you covered in all these different areas? So this is kind of just a glimpse of what we use. I use a paper one that's actually, these are all blank, and kind of fill it out from there. But there's a lot of ways to do that fact-finding process with the client. This is what we use because we've gotten a great response from it, and it works on both ends. We talk about different careers and doing different things. Here are some examples of kind of what are the barriers to entry to different careers. And that's not to say we don't need attorneys, we don't need physicians or any of these people. We definitely do. But when you're looking at yourself coming from maybe the School of Business or Communications, and figuring out what to do, we found that our financial services industry has very low barriers of entry, and most of those barriers are the licensing, which is like the state insurance license, or the FINRA Series 7 license, which allows you to do financial products like mutual funds and be a broker in that sense. So there's a lot of different careers out there. It's always good to know, what are the barriers to entry to get into each career. What does it look like when I have my clients or my clientele base? For us, the clients you bring in are your clients. So if you were to go somewhere else, you get to keep them, which is a big deal. And I always like to show this slide just to kind of give people a sense of perspective on, starting their career, looking at, what does it take to do these other careers and what does it pay out versus what our career does. Does anybody have any questions at this point?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I have one question. I'm sorry. What licenses did you get right at the end of your college career?
So I got the 215, which is the Florida Life, Health, and Annuity license. That's registered with the State Insurance Commission of the state of Florida. That's the first one I got. And then I was getting my Series 7 as I graduated, which is the federal license to basically solicit and give advice on different securities and financial products. So there's two licenses there. The first one, really easy, probably took me 2 weeks. And the second one, probably the Series 7, probably took 3 or 4 weeks. A little bit more detailed, but if you can graduate from college and take some of the exams that you've taken, these shouldn't be much of an issue. What I would say about these exams is they're not entirely indicative of what we do on a daily basis, seeing as much of what I do is relationships with clients, but you do need to kind of get through them. And it is a little bit of a memorization game on all these various topics. They're going to try to trick you. But, it's not the hardest thing. If you've taken finance classes before, it'll be no issue to you at all. If that answers your question. And like I said,
Yeah,
if you have
thank you.
questions on kind of how to find study materials for those, please let me know later, and we have access codes where you can get different study materials for yourself that are pretty good. Thank you guys for coming in today. I know this was pretty quick, and I do talk really fast when I get excited. So if you guys have questions, please let me know. And this is my contact info. Feel free to reach out to me at scott.long@equitable.com. This is my cell phone number. I'm working all day, every day. We're kind of all in Groundhog Day here. So feel free to reach out to me if you think you might be a good fit, or if you want to discuss what this career would look like for you. And if you know anybody else that might be interested, of course, reach out. With that being said, does anybody have any questions, comments?
I have a couple of questions. For supporting, does Equitable support you in paying for any of those licenses, or do you acquire those on your own? Is there a reimbursement strategy? Can you speak a little bit about that?
Good question. Good question. So the 215, which is the Florida Life and Health license, I think it's a $40 or $50 for the course materials. I think all in it's going to be like $170 once you actually buy a placement to take the exam. So once you contract with our firm, we're basically going to pay you back on everything except for the cost of the course. So because if we sponsored you and then, we paid for them, people could just get our licenses and leave, right? But that's a big question. So yes, we do sponsor. When it gets to the Series 7, which is actually broken up into two parts, the SIE, Securities Industries Essentials, and the Series 7 Top Off. So it's 2 3-hour exams. When I took it, it was 1 6-hour exam. For the SIE, the first portion of that exam, you don't need anybody to sponsor you. You buy your own materials, you buy your seat. Same thing for the Series 7, only with the Series 7, we actually have to create what's called the FINRA U4 form, which is your FINRA database. FINRA is the Financial Regulatory Authority. It's kind of like the FBI of finance, who preside over us and kind of watch what we do. That's when we get to the Series 7, that's when we actually sponsor you and say, you can't take it yourself. We have to basically sponsor you for that one. And we're going to reimburse you once you contract with us. We reimburse you for everything except for the cost of the course. So I would say about $800 total that you would have to pay up front for everything. And then you're going to get 80% of that back. Remember, that's an investment in your business. There's a lot of places you go where you don't have to have any licenses, and you'll make your $40,000, $45,000, $50,000 first year with a 9-to-5. This is not for that person that wants to be in front of an Excel spreadsheet from 9 to 5. This is for someone that's going to be outgoing, really ambitious, and is not afraid to work their own hours and make their own schedule. But that was a wonderful question, Tafara. Thank you. All right, guys. I think that
I have a couple other questions.
Oh, perfect.
If none of the students that are in have questions, I want to give them a time to kind of jump in if they have any.
Sure.
Okay. So I wanted to know a little bit about the interview process, what your average, I would say, time frame is in terms of an interview process, what your retention rate is as an organization in terms of keeping on your advisors, growth opportunity. You've talked a little bit about that, but I'm curious kind of what that pathway looks like for students, particularly students who are just graduating, and then, any other pieces that you can add to that.
Perfect. So I'll start with the first one, which is kind of the time frame on the interviews. Typically, our interview process is 3 parts. The first part is just an introductory phone call, and I kind of tell them up front what the job entails and what it looks like and what to expect. And we weed out a lot of people there because a lot of people, they want that 9 to 5, and they want somebody to make sure that they show up to work. And this is not one where we're going to be looking over your shoulder the whole time to see where you are. So we kind of have that conversation in the first interview to see, is it the right fit on a personality basis, and kind of is it something that's going to be mutually beneficial between yourself and our firm, because we don't want to go through the process with someone that we don't think is going to be a great fit and be a great resource for our clients. Second interview, we typically go into more detail, a little bit of the details we went into today in the PowerPoint and kind of the day-to-days of the job. And then the third interview is typically where we decide if we want to move along with the client. And that's probably a 2-week process in total. We try to keep it 1 to 2 weeks. I don't like to take too much time on that. And kind of the goal there is for those that we move forward with is to get them going on our 215. That's the first thing you're going to need, right? You're no good without licenses in this business, and that's the first thing you're going to need to do. And we do have weekly trainings on various topics that myself or one of the other managers will go over, and that'll be rotating every week. So once you're kind of in that loop, you'll be invited to those it's interactive, right? Not a huge group, and we try to teach you guys kind of more realistically of what we do, because if you take the exams and you think, oh, this is what my job is going to be like, it's not. It's not going to be that multiple choice, memorization, all of the answers, but, it's not going to be like that. So it's going to be dealing with people and trying to figure out their problems. And, there's much more to it than that. So that's kind of our interview process. And the goal is, if somebody right now is graduating in May and we decide we want to move forward with them, we would expect them to be fully licensed by, it's mid-April, probably fully licensed by June, early mid-June, that range, if they're putting in a lot of time to it. Everybody's coming from a different scenario. Some people are taking 5, 6 classes. Some people are taking 1 class. For career changers, some people have 3 kids and a wife and or husband, and they're working full time. So right, there's different people in different scenarios, and we're okay with that. We understand that. Everybody's kind of got their own path in that regard, but typically 2 months is the total turnaround for testing time. Again, right now the testing centers are closed, so it's kind of a problem currently, but I think they are figuring out ways to do virtual testing, which will be huge. So like I said, right now is kind of a weird time for everybody in that sense. You guys as well, I know.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of options. Hopefully there will be options down the line on. I know they have like Examity and things of that nature. I don't know if you guys have used that, where it's proctored but virtual. I think they're going to move towards that because we have so many people trying to get licensed, and it's kind of disheartening that we don't have a light at the end of the tunnel as to when that's going to happen. But it is a great time to be studying. You don't have to go anywhere. It's a great time to set an hour and a half a day to kind of go over this stuff. So I think that was the first part of your question. What was
Retention rate. So once people, I would count retention rates as once they've passed their licensing and they become operational. What's your retention rate 1 year out, 2 years out, 5 years out? If you know that kind of information.
The factors I know, and I don't want to give you wrong ones because I don't know like what the 3-year one is. But I know our 1 year is like in the lower 60%, and our 4-year, if you actually stay with the firm and you do the process, you get 120 clients a year. Our 4-year retention rate is over 80%, and for the rest of the industry, that's typically in the 20 percentile. That's for our retirement benefits group. So those are the individuals in the schools that are building those relationships or the sheriff stations. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of that myself personally. If I did not join that retirement benefits group in the school systems, I wouldn't have the client base I have now. I don't know if I'd still be with the firm. I don't know if I'd still be in the industry. But having that market where I can go personally face to face with someone, have a conversation with them, and try to set appointments that way, I'm way better at that than cold calling. Because if I get in front of somebody, I'm really good with them. I know a lot of us are like that, but on the phone, it's not like that, right? So I think that our retention rate being that high in that market is because we already have the relationship, right? We already have the credibility. We have the badges that allow us to be on campus, which you have to get, background checked and whatnot. So having that has done phenomenal things for my career and has really gotten me to work with a ton of people that I never knew I'd be able to work with so quickly. So hopefully that speaks to it a little bit. And I don't have every detail on the retention one because overall this is a very low retention industry, right? People typically move pretty quickly. And I think the reason because of that is, where do you get your clients from? If you go to a firm where you have to cold call for your clients, you're not going to stay there very long. Most likely, you're not going to stay there very long. There are some firms that make you knock on doors in people's communities. right? You're probably not going to stay there very long. So having those markets that we already have clients in the building and we have clients that speak very highly of us, I think is huge on that ground. And that's a wonderful question.
I also just want to talk a little bit about kind of the mentorship opportunities within the organization, because to me, if you have that kind of a retention rate, that to me means that there's an investment in kind of the up and comers in the organization. So for students that are just starting out, what kind of mentorship can they expect as they're kind of building their own portfolio and their own relationships? And, can you just talk a little bit more about who they have as a resource within the organization to talk to as they move forward and have questions?
Definitely. So like I showed that slide earlier, we had a variety of different individuals, different backgrounds. We're incredibly proud to have a lot of people from diverse set of backgrounds. Like I said, a lot of those people are specialists. You're going to have myself, Tyler's the other manager. We have experienced advisors here. We have PhD advisors here, CFPs, certified financial planners. And the one thing about this company that I've seen from the Boca Raton side as well as this side, I've never gone to a senior advisor and asked for help on something and they turn me away. There's always an excitement and an energy, and we want people to ask questions. We want people that want us to help them. I know myself, I called my managers 15, 20 times a day, it felt like, when I was starting, because I would see something and I knew that next time I see it, I don't want to get it wrong. So I'm going to learn it today, and we're looking for people with that attitude that are going to want to reach out. They're going to want to ask for support. They don't want to do it all themselves. That's not the goal. The goal is to kind of really to speak to a ton of different advisors at our firm and figure out, I like what he said on that. I like what he said on that. Maybe I didn't like what he said on that, so I'm not going to talk to him anymore. And you kind of have to figure out how to use those people and leverage their knowledge and their years of experience to build your own practice and kind of become a Frankenstein of all those people you talk to. That's what I've noticed myself is I have 4 or 5 mentors throughout the company on different levels that I take a little piece of each thing that they've shown me, whether it be an appointment or just asking questions with them. I take a little piece of that and I can see myself saying it to a client and thinking in my head like, oh, that's because Lenny told me that during that appointment, or Brant Schuler told me that on that appointment. So that's a great point. We take the mentorship really seriously. And I think that goes a long way when growing your practice. And like I said, everyone's always willing to help. We want people to ask questions and help us. In terms of growth, right? Obviously, as an advisor, you're going to see a 20, 30% growth production every single year. Why is that? Because you start off day 1, 0 clients, day 365, 120, 130 clients. Now you have people that are going to actually call you who you've been referred to, right? And you're also going to have renewals on the business you've already done. So you have money coming in that you already work for. You don't have to do anything for it now. You're already getting it. So that bottom line starts to increase every year. And then your client base expands and people have new needs and different things that they're going to call you for that you're not going to have the first day. My first 6 months, nobody called me. Guess what? Because nobody knew me, and nobody knew that I could be helpful in these ways. And now, I get calls all the time of, hey, this is this person, this client referred me, and I just wanted to ask you about this policy I have or this account I have. And that just takes time, you're going to see a large growth in production over the years if you continue to add clients and service those clients effectively and have a good relationship with them, know their family. There's 2 kind of paths. I took the path of leadership. If you're one that we see as a leader, and we have a ton of leadership opportunities throughout South Florida as well, you can get going on that pretty quickly. So, that's something that we kind of discuss with each advisor. Do you see yourself going more the producer route where you're going to have a wonderful book of business and you're going to be the advisor to a ton of people? Or do you see yourself being kind of a hybrid like myself who, yeah, sure, I still have clients. My number one goal now is developing advisors more than it is finding new clients. So in this leadership path I've taken, it's much more oriented on recruiting and bringing in new advisors to kind of leverage myself and mirror what I've been able to do in them and work my current book of clients instead of going out actively to pursue new client opportunities, which we do, but like I said, there's kind of different routes. Do you want to be an advisor or a leader? And I've kind of done the leadership route. Everybody's different.
Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here today and listening to me. And Again, if you have any questions or you want to discuss anything further, there's my contact info. Mary, thank you so much for setting this up, and thank all you guys.
Thanks. Anybody else have a question?
Thank you.
Oh, but thank you for your time today. Of
Thank you, Colin. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
course.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.